Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
It's the beginning of the end.
Da, da, da.
Final season begins. That angers me that he can't fold that pizza.
I had the same note. Wait, do you not like that part of the movie? Because that's the movie.
No. I thank God every day I know the lyrics to Enter the Sandman.
After brutal dumping. No, that sounds terrible.
After I took a brutal dump.
Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. You never know, you might find your own forgotten gem. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of over 200 episodes for your listening pleasure.
What's going on?
Nothing. You remember how I was scrubbed from NASA? Well, I left NASA because, a family tragedy.
Your dad dying?
I had to take over the family farm.
I do remember that.
Well, I haven't given up the dream.
Excellent.
So I've been building a very illegal rocket in my barn, and I'm going to space, Field.
The Astronaut Butler. We are doing the Astronaut Farmer this week. That is what Mike was referring to. So let me give you the synopsis and the facts, and then we'll get into it. Charles Farmer, a rancher who once trained to be an astronaut, decides to fulfill a lifelong dream. He builds a rocket in his barn and plans to pilot it from space. Though he faces foreclosure on his ranch, the disbelief of his neighbors, and threats from the government, Charles remains determined to reach for the stars. Aw.
That's so nice.
Isn't it? The Astronaut Farmer is rated PG. It's 104 minutes. It's a production budget of $13 million. It came out on February 23rd, 2007. That was a Friday. And its opening weekend, it did $4.4 million. Totally domestic, it did $11 million. International, $127,000. So they gave it a worldwide total of $11.1 million. It was produced by Polish Brothers Construction and Spring Creek Pictures and was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. Came out on the 23rd of February. It went up against in a wide release, the number 23. Reno 911 Miami. Is it just called Miami? Is that right?
No, I think it's Reno 911
Miami. Yep.
Yeah.
The Abandoned and Amazing Grace. I've actually seen only Reno 911 and the number 23.
Oh, I actually saw all of those.
You saw The Abandoned? What is that? The horror film, right?
It's a horror film, yeah.
It sounds familiar, but I just blocked it out of my memory. I never saw it again.
That's fair. That's around the time all that kind of started, all those kind of mid-budget kind of horror movies, definitely have a budget,
right,
but we're really quick to produce,
like the Blumhouse films.
Yeah, that's kind of where it all kind of started.
Gotcha. The week after, the 2nd of March, you had Wild Hogs. I did see that. Zodiac, which is fantastic, and Black Snake Moan, which I don't know if I've seen it. I don't know if I liked it. I know why everyone loved it, but yeah,
I never really loved it because Christina Ricci's in our pajamas. Though.
Yeah, I know. The week before, the February 16th, you had a wide release of Ghost Rider, Bridge to Terabithia, and Breach. I think I've seen Bridge. I think all three of those.
I haven't seen Breach. It sounds familiar, but I don't think
it's with Ryan Philippe, and Tim Robbins. I think that's the one where he works as a data analyst I don't know. I'm probably remembering that wrongly. This is directed by Michael Polish. He did Twin Falls, Idaho, North Fork, and Terror on the Prairie. It's also written by Mark Polish and Michael Polish, the Polish brothers. I talked about them, I think, last podcast when we were talking about this film. Much like the Coen brothers usually do a lot of their films together. So their credits are usually the same. I talked about Twin Falls, Idaho, obviously North Fork. I also did Jackpot, American Trader, The Trial of Axis Sally, which is a TV movie, I believe. I'm not sure because it just came out either last year or the year before.
2021, it says.
Yeah, a lot of the films that come out in the since 2020, or the films that got pushed from 2019 because of the pandemic, I think they just get lost in the shuffle. They come out and nobody knows about them just because of the pandemic and all that stuff. I think because I'm interested in that movie, but never heard of it. Never heard, you know what I mean? It's because I've heard the other films, but
right,
whatever. Cinematographer was M. David Mullen, who's doing the marvelous Mrs. Maisel at the TV show on Prime Video, and he did the movie Jennifer's Body. Composer was Stuart Matthewman, who's done Norfolk, Jackpot, and Nona. Edited by James Haygood, who's done Tron Legacy, Fight Club, and The Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger is a movie we did. Actually, Tron Legacy we're big fans of that movie, but we never did it. No. Produced by Len Amato, Mark Polish, Michael Polish, and Paula Weinstein. Weinstein's no relation. Amato is done Blood Diamond, Analyze That. I believe they also did Analyze This. And then Weinstein's done the TV show Gracie and Frankie and the movie The Company Men. So this film has Billy Bob Thornton as Charles Farmer, who won an Oscar for writing for Sling Blade. He also was nominated for his role in Sling Blade for acting. He also was nominated for an Oscar for A Simple Plan, which is a movie we did. And of course, Armageddon, which was on the other day. And I was watching it. And I'm like, I miss these type of films.
Armageddon's great.
It's not perfect.
Well, no, but
like I miss those big event films because they've been replaced by the generic Marvel films. Yeah. And it's like when those are all the same, it's just not fun anymore to watch like a big time summer event film. Like least like with Armageddon and like, I guess even Deep Impact or like Speed or like those films from the 90s. Right.
They were all had their own niche.
Right. So
he's got the best line in Armageddon.
Who, Billy Bob Thornton? Because
he gets to say the F word.
Oh, right.
What you're doing is wrong, and you fucking know it. And like everyone in the theater is like, "Oh my god, it's PG-13, and he said the F word."
They also had Virginia Madsen as Audrey Farmer, or Audie, as he calls her. That's his Charles' wife, nominated for an Oscar for the movie Sideways, and she's also in the original Candyman and the movie The Prophecy. Max Theriot is Shepherd Farmer, his son from TV show SEAL Team. He's obviously much older now. TV show Fire Country, which is new, and he's in the 2015 Point Break. Bruce Dern is Hal. He is Audie's father. He's in Silent Running, an episode we did. Digstown, an episode we did. The Burbs, an episode we did. Apparently, this is our fourth Bruce Dern film.
Yeah.
He's also been nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Nebraska, and the other is for Coming Home. John Grease as FBI Agent Kilborn from Napoleon Dynamite, Real Genius, in the TV show The White Lotus. Mark Polish is FBI Agent Mathis, so obviously that's one of the brothers. It's in Stay Cool and The Bridge of Sam Louis Ray. Tim Blake Nelson is Kevin Munchak. He's the lawyer of Charles Farmer. He's from Nightmare Alley, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and Minority Report. He had J.K. Simmons as the head of the FAA. Yes. He plays Jacobson. He won an Oscar for Whiplash, was nominated for being the Ricardos, and he's also in Juno. Julie White as Beth, who is the school nurse and also the town psychologist, because this is a small town.
Right.
She plays the mother of Sam Witwicky in the Transformer movies, if that sounds familiar to anybody.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I mean, I've seen her in other stuff, but I forgot.
Yes, but that's where you would know her. Yes.
Yeah.
She's also in the movie Lincoln. And then you had the Polish brothers had both their kids in this movie as the
younger daughters.
Yes. Yeah. And then Bruce Willis is an uncredited role, which is funny because he's in it a lot.
Yeah.
But it's uncredited.
I was like, where is he on here? He's got a whole scene.
Yeah. So he's Colonel Masterson. He plays, he knew Charles when he was in the program, and he kind of comes in. They bring him in to kind of talk Charles out of this and whatnot.
Right.
All right. So I had seen this before. I don't know if you had or not.
I did not. I knew nothing of the movie. And then as it's going, I was like, oh, I remember the trailers for this movie.
Okay, so I'm interested. What do you think? Because it's PG. It's
the premise is absolutely unbelievable, but it has a really good theme and it's telling a really good story. And other than one toward the end, there's a moment that's a huge story moment that I don't like.
Okay.
I think the rest of the movie tells a really good story, has really good lessons, and it's just about not giving up and following your dreams.
Right.
And the fact that it kind of starts real quick, keeps that feel good feeling for most of the movie, I really enjoy. I think more movies like this need to come out that aren't super hokey, because I don't think this does it in like too hokey of a way, like toes the line really well.
Right.
And most movies would go over into like hokey territory trying to tell a story like this.
Melodramatic. It would get really sappy, and yeah, I agree. It's also a really tight film, like you said, 104 minutes. That's a great runtime for this film.
Yep.
Not too short, not too long. What was the moment that you really didn't like?
His first takeoff was just absolutely,
okay.
I did not like
the
that.
CGI or just the whole idea?
The whole idea. I mean, just the whole movie has been about him having his family. You know, his son's going to be the best mission control person. Doesn't even get him. Doesn't even wake him up to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And just tries to go for this rocket. I just was like, that is totally out of character. You know, I get, you had a week left before, you know, the FAA kind of grounds you or whatever.
Right.
But you had a whole week. And so you just take off the next night, not tell anybody. It was super out of character and super just like, hey, we have to pad 25 minutes into this movie.
I thought when it started, I do like it when all the glass in the house explodes when she's walking.
That's cool,
I thought that was good. But the problem that I had with that moment is, number one, the CGI was a little dated, but I get it. It's a $13 million production movie, so I get it.
Oh, there's some bad effects.
It's I understand that. I will allow that. But I thought it was a dream sequence.
I thought I had the same note.
And I think it's just because of the way it was presented, the way it came up out on screen.
It just was so quick.
It felt very much like this isn't happening, right? This because they just waited for him to wake up or something.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what throws me out of that moment, out of that scene when it starts. And then when you realize this isn't a dream, then you're like, you kind of, it takes you out of the movie a little bit. So you kind of can't get back into it. So
Sure.
I understand what you're saying there. That whole moment, that whole scene, you're just kind of like, oh, I don't know how I feel because I didn't think this was real.
Well, yeah. Once he slams on the ground, I really thought, like you said, it's going to be a dream sequence. And my note is, as he's in the hospital, I go, wait, it's not a dream?
Right.
It just doesn't match his character. It doesn't match what the movie was trying to tell you.
Sure.
And it makes Hal's death from a Deus Ex Machina into like a Deus Ex Machina. It was just like it was too much.
So you didn't buy it because you didn't think that the character of Charles Farmer would do that he would get that desperate to do that.
I didn't think
You
he'd
didn't
get
buy
so
that.
desperate he wouldn't involve his family after everything. 15 minutes prior, they had just gone through it. They're arguing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't believe okay, you didn't make it, but now you're going to make it because it's a feel-good movie. So I knew he was going to rebuild his rocket and go into space.
Mm-hmm.
But it just was so unbelievable. All their money troubles get solved by Hal's death.
Mm-hmm.
So Hal passes away peacefully and leaves his family about $500,000 altogether.
Right.
Ridiculous. Like absolutely just here's all these problems we set up in the movie. We need to solve them somehow. And clearly because Charles is going to take off without telling anybody and fail, all his advertising is for naught on his rocket. So it's just absolutely just every problem solves itself because of the death of Hal.
Did you even see the advertising when he started taking off? I couldn't remember if it was on there.
I was so distracted by the fact that it was stupid. And the rocket just launches sideways.
Well, because it doesn't have enough fuel. The mixture that they decided wasn't enough. Yeah, because even when he was working it out with his son's just like, yeah, sure, it makes sense, but he really wasn't.
Farmer fuel, yeah, because he couldn't understand the equations. His dad was just jotting down.
Yeah, I know. They never really go into the intelligence level of the son. I mean, you got to be somewhat smart to kind of handle all that.
You get that his son's obsessed with space, but yeah, you don't get
a lot with his son. Yeah, it's tough because I think you're towing the line of. You're adding another 20 minutes if you're going to start building out, because the fleshing out the son character, because the son character doesn't have a lot of screen time in terms of his own growth. It's always just off of his father. This is definitely Billy Bob Thornton's film. So I think that you kind of lose you get him and his wife. You get a lot of that, but you don't get a lot with the son.
I wouldn't have minded one scene with the son because the son, so many like camera angles focus on Shepard.
Sure.
And are like, just like, all right, this is Shepard's reaction to this. So then I need to see Shepard's thought process. He's not Sunshine and what was the other girl's name?
Sunshine and Stanley.
Sunshine and Stanley. She's not. He's older than that, so his emotions are more complex. Like a father-son scene would have worked better. Or let's say after he does the rocket and Shep's just like, we can rebuild it. I looked at the barn. We can the scene should have been Shepard being pissed at his dad for completely ignoring the fact that it was also Shepard's dream to help him get into space.
There's also that idea that when the rocket goes off, just to go back to that rocket scene, when the rocket goes off and it crashes, like, I don't know if he would get the rocket back. I think that the government would take that.
I think so as well.
Yeah, I don't. Once he started his initial liftoff, I think they would have confiscated all of his material because they would have said he would have deemed him a threat. He fired a missile, like that kind of. Because there's that whole talk where when he goes to the board of the FAA board, where they're going to determine whether he's going to get permission to do this. And they're basically like, this rocket you build is based on this style Apollo rocket,
which was a missile,
which is also a missile. So you're building a missile, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that they would have just wrapped it around that and they would have taken it.
Oh, yeah. Especially it almost kills all the news crew.
Yeah.
Boom,
Yes. that was a little weird. Again, but that also went towards the fact that this can't be real. This has got to be a dream sequence when we're watching it.
I just don't think the film needed that.
You have to have a moment where because the whole thing is Farmer's obstacle. He doesn't really obstacles for him to get this off the ground.
Yeah.
You're really just making the FAA one. You have to have a crisis of conscience. This is just obviously this is like not a writing blueprint, but you also have to have the the character overcomes something internally. Right. Yeah. So that's where this comes in. Probably could have been it's tough to say like, well, if they did it like this, Mike, would it be better for you? But maybe if this was presented a little bit better.
He could have just failed the rocket launch.
Sure.
Without blowing it up.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not shooting off and getting
well, no one believes in the farmer. And then he loses trust everybody in town. He becomes even more of a laughing stock.
Mm-hmm. They gave up on him quick too.
Oh yeah. They were like, we got to wash this.
Yeah. They're like scrubbing everything out. It's like, guys, it's like, all right. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. And they don't really get the sense of, you get the one guy, Frank, in the diner who's ripping on him to his wife. And then you kind of get Beth, who is his former flame.
Well, you get the lawyer, or not the lawyer, the banker as well.
The banker is his friend, but I get that kind of, you owe the bank money. I get that. His lawyers behind him. You don't really get like he's ostracized by the community. Like I'm thinking about like the ostracization of like in Ghostbusters Afterlife of Egon going to the farm. Right, you're the dirt farmer, like that kind of thing. Like you don't get like that level. You don't even get any midway. So I'm wondering if maybe we needed some of that. I don't. That's just.
I feel like that would have created a conflict that then you wouldn't need. Once he fails, he no longer becomes the inspiration to everybody that you think. And then maybe you can have a moment where Shep's like, "Hey, I figured it out."
Right.
Shows Shep's brilliance and also gets him back in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So don't believe he can. He buys another rocket. They save their house and they buy another rocket with what, your kids' tuition. So now your kids aren't going to college. I don't understand it. I just really don't like that part either.
That whole the second building of the rocket,
leaving so much money.
Right.
And rebuilding the entire rocket. I knew it was coming. I was like, they're gonna rebuild the stupid rocket. They're gonna build a whole nother rocket.
Yeah.
First of all, the FBI is already onto you. If I was the FBI, I'm not letting you buy this fuselage. You're not buying any of this.
Well, I think they just put together the old stuff they had. I don't think they went out and got new stuff. I mean, he bought the rocket fuel.
Right.
And they tricked them that way, which I don't get how they tricked them, but all right. Really
see how they just send another guy out to get it.
They send out their farmhand. That's their friend, basically. The guy who works for them. So they figure that out. I was gonna ask you, I think that if this movie doesn't have, if there's a different actor in this role, would you think this movie would work? Because I think this is like,
I really like Billy Bob Thornton in this role.
I think he's like, I think people, I mean, I don't know. Every time I watch Billy Bob Thornton, I like him. I think people don't give him enough credit. I think he's sneaky good. Like people don't give him enough credit.
I think he has that Southern charm.
Right.
Where it's like, that's all. He's just Southern charm, but he's a really good actor.
Right.
Like that's just part of like his repertoire that he can use.
Right. See, the thing is like he is in this movie and he is effortless, but he doesn't overreact to, like he doesn't get over, like he's within his character and he allows everybody else around him to do what they need to do. Absolutely. Like, when you meet Colonel Masterson, Bruce Willis and stuff like that, like Bruce Willis is very charismatic in this film and he's coming in, he's having jokes, having a good time.
He comes in like the classic at what you would picture an old astronaut.
But that's not going to work if a different actor is trying to match that. You know what I mean? Like if Billy Bob Thornton's letting him do all that because he's playing Charles Farmer and he knows who Charles Farmer is. So I just think that's.
But he can go from a movie like Simple Plan or Sling Blade, and I totally believe he's this moron country bumpkin, like got something wrong in his brain. But then I absolutely believe in like Armageddon that he's 100% brilliant, NASA scientist. I absolutely buy that as well.
And you've never seen the first season of Fargo, right? Because he plays a hitman in Fargo.
No, I still gotta watch the TV show.
Because he's like super scary. And
I believe he can play super scary.
He's pretty, but he's like that evil, like hey, don't mess with me, like because it's like that kind of thing. Like he's really good. So I think that's the thing. He can do all that. And that's what prompted my question is like, do you think anyone else could have been Charles Farmer in this role? Yeah, exactly.
Me, yes, maybe. I don't know if it would have been different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the movie itself is so feel good that like,
true.
I still might wanted to. I still would have been okay with it. Like if Bruce Willis played Farmer, I still might be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd need somebody who's like an everyman like that. But like obviously Bruce Willis is kind of cheesing it up as that kind of like.
Well, he's the hotshot astronaut.
Yeah. But like he's played the everyman so often. You need an actor who can play the everyman.
See, so I don't think Willis could do this role because I think Willis would do a bunch, kind of kick some wisecracks in and here and there. So maybe. You know what I mean? Like, so because one of the lines that I thought was hilarious And I think that if somebody like Willis or somebody who has all these zingers throughout the movie, this line's not going to be as funny as it was.
A little too winky, kind
right? Because when they talk about the WMD, and he was like, are you making a WMD? He's like, no, because if I was building a weapon of mass destruction, you would have found it. And it was like, that's obviously topical, but it's hilarious because it's just like, I mean, I laughed out loud again. So I think that like that line doesn't work if the whole movie Farmer is cracking wise.
Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton would have been good. Yeah. If he kept that like low key. Yeah. No, absolutely.
You need someone who plays the low key, can play the low key everyman really easily.
Right. He can't be, Bill Paxton would have to rein it in too. You know what I mean? Like he would have to be like even in Big Love, like
he gets a little excited sometimes.
Well, but in Big Love, he's very charismatic and he could talk people into a lot of stuff because that's how he is. Like, hey, but like he would have to even be short. It'd be half of that just to kind of just be comfortable with who he is and say like, this is what I'm doing. I'm chasing my dream.
But like Charles isn't not charismatic either.
No, I know that he's quiet charisma.
Yeah.
Quiet charisma.
Because like as soon as like you got to talk to the news crew, he goes up on that horse and he's already joking with them.
Yeah. He's very at ease.
Yeah. Very effortless in what he says. Mm-hmm. He's got some other good lines I like about the when he takes his kids out of school for 5 weeks to launch the rocket. Like, you know what one of the teachers said to me the other day? You know what one of the teachers said? They don't do science in school anymore because science isn't sexy. And I was like, that sounds like a Southern education. That's a Deep South education right there.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, oof.
It's like 3 to 5 weeks tops, 3 weeks tops, 5 weeks, 5 weeks tops. Kept going.
You're just showing him how to read history. I'm going to show him how to make it.
Right.
So long, man.
One of the things that I noticed in this film, my second watch, because this is definitely my second watch, that I didn't really consider in the first time, was how beautifully lit this film is and how, for lack of a better term, pretty this film looks.
It was really nice. The funeral scene is beautifully shot.
Well, the opening when he's on his horse and he's the sunset,
the vistas,
the scene when they go to the rocket and they have that long shot where they're standing in front of the rocket and you just see the rocket in the background, and they're kind of in the background too, but it's far away. They do that a couple times. I think they do that twice. One time he's sitting there too. There, the shots of the farmhouse. There's just a lot of really good looking scenes in this movie. And, you know, that obviously is a testament to the Polish brothers, but also a testament to Mullen, the cinematographer, which makes sense because when you watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, that looks fantastic. That TV show is just, it's full of color. So this film is, my note here is that even in the opening, a little bit at the beginning, that it felt like a Norman Rockwell painting coming to life a lot of times. That's kind of
the
like
weirdness of him in the astronaut suit going across.
That, them at the dinner table, you know, just everything. Like, I don't know what it was, but even like the shot of when they're in the lawyer's office up top at night and you just see the sky, you see the city below all lit up. I mean, that's a great set.
That reminds me of the office, the billboard office in 3 Billboard outside Ebbing, Missouri. Yep, same kind of shot. Looking down on the small towns. So you always know where you are. Yeah. I just really was impressed with the look of the film. And the reason why I bring it up because I think I just missed that in my first watch. And this is what? 2007? Yeah. Oh, actually the next 2 movies. Next week's movie is 2007 too. I noticed that. I was like, oh, we're not going anywhere.
Way to go. But yeah, so I don't know. And that's just something I really noticed. I don't know if you caught that as well.
I did, especially during the funeral scene. I was like, that is beautifully lit.
Even the bar scene when he goes to tries to buy 10,000 pounds of the jet fuel, it's all red. Yeah. That whole bar. Yeah.
So how much do you need? 100,000 pounds. How much is that going to cost you? Way more than you have. Like when her credit card gets declined, I was like, yeah, I've been waiting for that the whole thing. You're like $500,000 in debt. First of all, why'd the bank let you? First of all, it's the bank's irresponsibility to let you get that far.
Oh, what, for 50,000 for the jet fuel?
Yeah,
yeah, and I capitalized. Yeah, well, it's because it's his best buddy. It's also small. I know.
Yeah,
I got you.
Keep on increasing the credit.
Yeah, I got you. When the government appears for the first time, when they start driving to the house, felt very much like E.T. when they all showed up.
Oh, I thought the same thing. Yeah,
which I love. It was just like dun, 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 dun. They're all coming over the hills. I'm just like, ooh.
There's a shot though when the FBI is coming over. And they first showed the barn. Somebody runs into the barn and lock the door.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. They didn't really.
because then Charles and Hal are both in the house.
Mm-hmm. It could have been the state farmhand, but they never really reference it, so it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly, because they never he's just talking to them, so you never see him hiding.
Yeah,
which makes sense because if he's like La Migra, and he runs away, okay, maybe. But you don't get that. You just get him saying it after them interviewing him calmly.
Yeah, I wonder if that was just a shot they had, establishing shot, and they just reused it or something.
We'll go for it.
Yeah, I mean that happens. I wonder that if they use that, because there was that also the funeral scene when he goes out again. Another great looking shot when even it's at night and he goes out to talk to the surveyor.
Oh, great line.
They kind of have that, but it's like. Nothing really comes of it. It just that scene just happens. It's just kind of reminds you hey, the bank's looming, that kind of thing. I think that kicks it into him trying to leave. I think that's where that comes from too. I think
they're going to take your house in a week.
Yeah. I think that's where
the
that
FAA
comes.
is going to do 6 weeks, but you're going to lose your house in a week.
Right.
I own 352 acres. You ever try to find a body on that size of land?
I'm not the bad guy here.
You ain't the good guy. Ain't the
good guy either. Yeah, that's a great line. Yeah. I like when they go to the carnival and the FBI agents are following them.
Oh yeah, and then his wife Audie has to dance with one of them, and she's doing the square dance.
It's like, why are you dancing? I get it, it's funny, but you don't need to just watch.
Yeah, because they're all there. When they're playing horseshoes, and they're like, yes, and then they look at each other and go, "I've been here too long." Them going out, I get. Because what he's saying is right. You got to show them that you're normal people. You're not in a cult.
Right.
But every single family member goes to the fair. Mm-hmm. So you left your rocket completely out in the open to both news crews that stayed and the FBI.
Did the farmhand go?
I think so.
Okay.
I was really waiting for a scene where
they dismantle it.
They dismantle it or just sabotage it somehow.
Well, they've been there. They've checked it out. They were they already looked at it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I think there's nothing he can do. I guess maybe there's nothing they can do until if he, gets the fuel. Maybe that's it.
I think they could have sabotaged
because he was making the fuel. So they didn't know that he was trying to make the fuel.
Oh, because they thought he was going to buy it. Yeah.
The only reason he got on their watch is because he tried to buy it through electronic transaction. So I think they were just waiting for that, and then they were going to get him.
Yeah.
So maybe that was.
They could have sabotaged.
I don't know. They really just don't. They really leave that up in the air in terms of what they can and cannot do. And quite honestly, that's not the movie. And I think that to your point, that it's such a feel-good film that you don't care. Right.
But at the same time, I've seen so many movies where that happens that I'm just waiting for it. No,
I get it. But it's a really cool moment when he launches and everyone comes out and looks at it.
Right.
I think that was when Beth comes out and she's like, Charlie's Farmer. And she's watching him go. I think that's a really cool moment. What did you think about all the stuff in space? Okay. Why?
Earth looked terrible.
Okay. I didn't catch
2007. It looked like looks like they blew up old PlayStation version of the Earth.
Okay.
It's really blurry. The other thing is they didn't take into account line of sight communication.
Maybe not.
Oh no, I've gone a quarter way around the world. Yeah, your radio is not going to work. Your regular radio doesn't work.
But then he plugged something in when he fixed it.
Because then he loses power, but he loses communication first.
Right.
Then he loses power and has no one to help him.
Right.
And then he fixes it, but then he's already back. He's already circled the Earth however many times.
He was only supposed to circle it 8 times. He's only supposed to, right?
3.
Is that what the initial plan was? Okay.
So I thought that was kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even having the power failure, I was like, that's not what this movie is. You're just putting more drama in it than it needs to have.
Of course.
It's just kind of I don't need that in that's not what this kind of movie is, nor does it need it.
Well, of course, man.
So I was mad with the space stuff.
Really?
But then when he opens the marshmallows, all I could think of was the episode of The Simpsons where Homer opens
the chips,
the Ruffles. They're ripped.
Well, his daughter's right. The cereal part of Lucky Charms do taste like wood.
Yeah. The same thing.
It's yeah, you're right. They taste like wood, and then you're always repeating when you're always burping. You're always tasting them. They're gross. They're gross. I can't have Lucky Charms anymore. I'm too old.
All marshmallow.
I like that his wife calls him by his last name too.
Farmer.
She just calls him Farmer. Maybe I'll get my wife to start calling me Field. Field.
Stop calling me Michael. You got bad credit, but amazing character.
What did you? So we talked about Bruce Willis. It made me sad to see Bruce Willis on here because I felt, obviously with his aphasia diagnosis, I know you still hate him.
It's tough to know where the aphasia starts and where the stories about him not being nice begin.
Again, we don't need to go into that.
Sure.
But what did you think about Bruce Willis?
I loved him in this. It's classic Bruce Willis and being like super like turning his Bruce Willisness up to 11 to be like the cocky Air Force guy.
Right.
It was fun to see him being in a movie that I haven't seen. I didn't know he was in this because obviously not listed.
Right.
So there's very few Bruce Willis movies now where I haven't seen him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to see like classic Bruce Willis and something again and be like, oh yeah.
I mean, I think they're friends. Quite honestly, I think that
they've done three or four movies together already.
So I think that he probably just did this as a favor to Thornton or something like that.
I do like it's kind of like the opposite of Armageddon.
Oh, of course.
Whereas like he wants to go up into space and he's never been, and Bruce Willis was. Now they swapped it.
Right. Well, my wife hates Armageddon. I can't bring it up to her. She can't stand it.
Oh,
I know. But I keep bringing it up. The Polish brothers talk about how they use their father as a role model for this film, which I thought was very nice.
Aww.
Just to kind of give you a little backstory there. And also the scene where he talks to Leno during the credits is actually a real scene where they really have the audience members there. So for Leno was recording something, so
like, hey, let's do this
he came up and they did that whole thing. So they actually, were part of the movie, which I mean, it's not hard to do, I guess. But it was like it was weird, that Leno moment, because I was waiting for, I'm not a huge Jay Leno fan.
No, I didn't. I've never.
So yeah. So and
not as a person. As a person.
I'm sure he's a fantastic individual, and I know that he just had like a accident
in his garage. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, obviously I'm glad that he's okay, but like I'm never a big late night guy anyway. So so watching that I was just like, all right, whatever. He's just making jokes. I'm just like, they're not that funny.
Classic late night.
Right.
Super soft jokes. We don't have our dreams. We have nothing. And the other thing is, without the rocket, we're just a dysfunctional family. I don't like that line.
Why not?
Because it makes them seem very unhealthy. The whole thing is supposed to be they're like a good family, that they're not a cult.
Right.
But then that line, complete opposite. Mm-hmm. That line is like, without the rocket, we're just a so once he goes up into space, what happens to you guys?
Like, that was from her. That's her line,
that's
right?
That's Audie's line, yeah. I don't like that line because I think that changes the dynamic of the family and changes the goal. Like, so he should never go into space then. He should always work on his rocket because once he launches, what do you guys got? Clearly nothing now.
Right. Well, you could make a case that she's saying that line in a moment of she's upset with him and she's just kind of.
Well, that's when she says that line when she gives him the money.
Oh, gives him the money. Well, I think she's trying to inspire him.
Sure.
I get you.
I don't like that line.
Okay.
For the audience, I don't think it helps the theme of the movie.
Right.
That makes me go, should we call the Child Protective Services person again? Maybe CPS needs to come back.
Is this your first? You've probably seen North Fork, right? That's the one with Charlize Theron, I think.
North Fork.
I
don't know.
I think that. What's that?
Claire Danes.
Oh, Claire Danes. I'm thinking of a different movie then.
No, not even. Dual Farms.
Have you seen
Anthony Edwards?
Have you seen any Polish brother films?
No, okay. I had heard of the
Twin Falls, Idaho.
Twin Falls, Idaho, but I knew nothing of it.
Right.
So when I was looking up, I was like, conjoined twins. I was like, this seems like a David Lynch movie.
That movie, yes, but it's not as Lynch as you think. They do a lot of their stuff is very interesting. It's very indie. So if you're ever in an indie film mood, I would recommend their films because they're very independent, very indie, but they're telling stories that they're fascinating.
Sure.
So this is probably their most
Hollywood film.
Yeah, I was gonna say mainstream film. Yes, this is probably their most mainstream, relatable film. But everything so, So if you haven't seen their other stuff, I do recommend it. They're very good filmmakers. A lot of the reviews I read were just all positive, so I didn't really. I have them, but I'm not gonna really. I wasn't really gonna go through them because we both like this film, so I always like to have the antithesis of what we. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not like. I know what was going on about the problems at the beginning, but that's because I like the film so much. It's just that's something we could talk about. But other than those small issues, I think the story is telling you something that's important. and worthwhile. So it's tough to like knock the movie on its
Well, no film's
feel-good-
perfect.
Well, yeah, and it's tough to knock the movie on its feel good premise because that's what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
So yeah, I would find it hard to like really knock this movie in terms of like a review.
Well, who would you recommend this film to? Everybody?
Pretty much anybody.
Dreamers?
Dreamers, people who have like a goal,
Right.
people who don't want to give up on the goal. Like, I think this tells a really good message that, I mean, obviously this one is about going to space and being an astronaut, but I think it goes to everybody and anyone. You know, I like his line when he's in, and I didn't write it down. I forget what exactly he says, but after their fight and he's lying in bed with his wife and he's just like, I have nothing without, like, he says it in the thing, if without our dreams, we have nothing.
Right.
But that's what he says to the council. He says something else to Audie at the end. And I'm like, that was a really nice line about how he doesn't know if that's what he has is his dream.
Right.
And that he's just going to be nothing and hollow without it, basically.
Right. What are my kids going to think if I don't?
Exactly.
If I don't do it. Yeah, exactly. And she kind of apes that back to him when she says they're going to, you know, you show them, you know, what you can do.
By
And that
not
kind
going
of,
to
right,
yeah.
right. I had the thought, I wonder if you had that thought when he's talking, when he gets up and he starts talking to the FAA and he stands up and he talks about how like we went to the moon in 69 or 60 or something like that. We had the race and we went to the moon in 69. And he's just like, what happened? I'm like, yeah, what happened?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Yeah. Same idea. That's why I know I keep telling you to watch For All Mankind.
Yeah.
But that's like that. I watched that show on Apple Plus and I'm just like, why are we not on the moon?
Well,
like,
I watched, I mean, this is coming out, it was a while ago now, but I watched the Artemis 1 launch
mm-hmm.
and I was just like, I stayed up and I watched it on YouTube and I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
And they made a big deal because it is a big deal.
It is.
It took what? 69, so 40, 50 years to get there again.
There's no reason why we shouldn't be on there
so
right
ridiculous,
now.
yeah.
Right. That's. I mean, I think it's in this movie when he says like, do you think that if another country was colonizing the moon, you don't think that we would be up there?
Yeah, we'd be up there stopping them,
right?
Because we think it's all ours,
exactly,
and it's not
exactly. I think that
but that's the thing. It's like there's no one else to compete
right.
at the moment. So
right.
the United States, like, if we don't have an enemy to do something, if we're not just fighting,
exactly, you can't just do it for the good of mankind. You have to beat somebody else. What is that? I mean, I guess you could say that's human nature.
Oh, sure.
You know, that's not just. I don't think that's just synonymous
sucks,
with America. Yeah, no, absolutely.
We just have the money to do it.
Yeah. You're darn right we do. So why is this forgotten then?
I think the feel good. I think it didn't make a lot of money. Well, I think it's tough to make people want to go to a feel good movie. People want to go see action. People want excitement, especially when they talk about space. And it's not really about space. So if you're trying to tell somebody about, hey, I know you like space stuff, but the space stuff kind of sucks and it's only like 5 minutes of the movie.
Right.
Then somebody who likes space is going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the premise of the movie is really stupid. Some guy tries to build a rocket in his barn. If you tell somebody that, they'd be like, I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But like within the movie, you get the background of, well, he was an ex-NASA astronaut. He's literally a rocket scientist who just happened to inherit a farm and stuff. So I think the premise, without really going into too much detail, might turn people off as being too unbelievable. And in some ways, it is unbelievable. I mean, that barn would be destroyed. If anybody's watched an actual rocket launch, that probably the house would be blown up in flames as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's all gone. But I think that's probably a pretty big reason. I think the February release date is good.
I don't know that's the thing. I don't know if I like it in February because it's winter. I think maybe September.
Because of just how the movie is. And
because it's in Texas. It's warm. I think September after kind of like a feel good movie after the summer ends kind of thing. That's all. I just don't think it's a February film.
I just didn't think it was a winter, like a holiday release or a summer release.
I agree with that.
So September would work as well.
Yeah.
But it's not really going up against anything of its own ilk.
True. That's true.
Which is nice. So
it's tough too, because a movie like this, like just kind of like how Ted Lasso came out, like during the quarantine, during the pandemic, like that's what people needed. A movie like this, I feel like people need this film. And I don't know, you almost have to have the perfect release time. So I think,
have it catch on.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that we talk about how when, I don't know if I think we've talked about it on the podcast, how when Spielberg did Terminal, like that was because he wanted to do something like a love letter to America because it was after 9/11 and he wanted to do something. Right. Yeah. Right. I think you could say like maybe this is 6 years after 9/11. So you can say maybe like that's kind of where this is coming from. I think that this is a movie that almost you need to, it may come into your life when you need it. Maybe it's that, you know what I mean? It's like, It's really tough to kind of pin down, like, it's not going to be a huge success unless it came out at the perfect time. And I mean, also, I think not a lot of people I think are interested in space as much maybe as we are. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Maybe.
So
I mean,
maybe
I think that, yeah.
that's an aspect that maybe people gets missed out. I will say that I would recommend this to anybody. I think it's a great family film. I think it's a great Saturday night film, kind of like, hey, let's watch it short, like we talked about. It's tight. I just also think it's beautifully lit. It looks fantastic and it's well acted. I think aside from like the little stuff that we're talking about, there's really, and no movie's perfect. I think this is a really strong film, and I think it would be I think if it was too long, if it was like 15 minutes longer,
down and become boring.
I think we would feel differently. But because it's 104 minutes, I think it's just like, yeah, this is good.
It creates certain things that like create drama where it doesn't have to happen.
Right.
But other than that, everything that happens is in service of the story.
The comedy's organic.
Really yeah.
The comic touches are organic to the story itself. There's funny moments. There's cute little things that happen. It's not like you talked about. It's not melodramatic. It's not sappy.
Yep. There's great lines.
Right. There's emotion in there, of course, but it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't feel like you're not groaning.
Yeah. When Hal passes away, it's a nice moment. It's a sad moment, but it's a nice moment. It's not, they don't spend too long on it because that's not what this movie is.
Right.
It's like Jonathan Kent dying in Smallville or Superman. It's
which version? Not the Kevin Costner put in the hand up.
The original like funeral scene. How it's like sad, but you know that things are going to, because it's a Superman movie, you still know things are going to turn out okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps it.
Yeah.
But like, and it's, even though it's 2006, so it's a long time ago now, I don't think that it completely is stuck in its time period either.
Oh no, I think I think
it's still pretty relevant today.
It feels timeless.
It does, yeah, because there's not like, no one's on cell phones. They like email that one guy, but there's no like too many corded phones or too many, this or that. It really is focused on that ranch, so anybody can kind of watch it. Yeah,
I hear you. No, I get that. Sweet. Where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. While you're there, check out all the other great podcasts and video content we have for you guys. It's all really good, so check it out. And then while you're listening to us, wherever you're listening to us, go ahead and like, rate, subscribe. All that good stuff helps the podcast. And that's what I got.
And join us next week as we stay in the same year. Sometimes we like to space them out, but I guess we failed here. I know. So we'll be doing the 2007 film Once, another indie that I don't think you've ever seen before, right?
I had not seen this. Okay. I had always listened to the soundtrack.
There you go.
Because I like Glenn Hansard.
Great soundtrack. Great soundtrack. And we'll talk about that next week. So that's Once. And until then, everyone, have a great week. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.